He said, every day tell a lie so you get good at it. That's undercover work. I said, wow. So you get into that mode where, and it helps, man, because you're sitting in a car with somebody and, are you the police? No, I'm not the police. And you learn the gift of gab. No, I'm not a cop. If you think I'm a cop, get out my car. And, arguing with them, then slowly but surely they come on and it's that money. Look, you're going to do this, I got the money right here, you're going to do this or not. Okay, you seem cool.
They're willing to take the risk because they see that they want that money.
Yep.
Even though they may have a suspicion, they still go chance it.
Yep, and it's been many times I'm in situations, I'm in for this sole purpose, where's so-and-so, I got some money to buy this, make sure I ain't getting robbed, and, making sure they don't see my gun, because I'm carrying it different from if I was just on the street and all this stuff. So it was all these dynamics, trying to see who in the room, if this happens, just how can I get out of here if this happens? So it was always this you always got to be on your toes thinking, you can't fall asleep, not literally sleeping, but you got to be on your toes because my job is to get in here and get out. And I always knew that my job was to go to work and come home without any more holes or getting beat up. Because it was so bad that one day I'm hanging out on this corner. And when I started, I didn't tell my parents. They knew I was going to be a cop, but they didn't know what I was doing because I didn't want to tell my mother, or my father. And so I was hanging out on this corner waiting for somebody to come by and deliver some stuff to me. My mother and father drove by and they looked up at me. And I looked down and they kept going, didn't stop. I said, okay, that's good. So I get back to the station, my mother calls. I said, what's up? She said, I need to see you. I said, I'm at work. I don't care what you're doing. You need to come talk to me right now. I'm like, God damn. I said, I got to go by my parents' house real quick. So I go by there. My mother said, sit down. I said, Ma, I'm in a hurry. She said, sit down. She said, I don't know what you're doing. We see you standing on these corners all the time. Ain't never seen you in uniform. She said, you better not lie to me. Are you out here doing drugs? I bust out laughing. And that was it, man.
Mom's gonna set you straight.
Oh, she was. So eventually I told her what I was doing, and that's when it hit. Boy, you gonna get killed out here.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
So that's what it was.
So she was more worried.
Yeah, and that's why I didn't tell him at first.
Of course,
man.
of course.
But then also, everybody being from the same city, we would do search warrants on people that my parents knew. And, your son came in and took my son's money, took my daughter's money, and my mother would come by. You took, mama, leave them people alone. I'm working, I know what I'm doing. They said, don't listen to them people. If they got something to say to you, tell them to call me. And then I would have to deliver messages to people. Leave my parents out of this.
That must have been scary.
It was crazy. It was
rough.
crazy. To the point where I had one brother that actually told, we did a search warrant down the street from where my parents lived. And so when we arrested him, he had the audacity to tell me, I know where your parents live. Wrong word.
Wow.
Don't ever mention my parents to me.
That's not going to go well.
It's not going to go well. I said, look, man, I don't want to go to jail. I don't want to get fired, but I'm not allergic to it. Don't ever mention my parents in your breath, and all that stuff. Some things are off limits. I said, don't do that.
Wow. I never really thought about that part of it, but I could imagine for someone who grew up or is from a community that they're policing, or doing undercover work or what have you, that concern for your relatives.
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Because it's not a situation where people could just be moving all the time.
Right,
whatever.
and that's what it. And it's more so now. You can find out where people live.
Oh, I see.
Back there, social media wasn't as big and the internet and all that stuff. But now, I don't know how they do it now.
People get doxxed all the time.
Yeah, but back then, people who knew where I lived and knew where my parents lived was people from the neighborhood, and they knew who I was. And by then they knew I was a cop and all that other stuff. And it was only maybe 2 occasions where somebody said that brother, and then this other Hispanic dude that was deep in the gangs, all that stuff. He told me one day, man, we got your parents covered. They know. I'm like, come here. I don't know who you talking about, what you talking about. You ain't protecting my parents. stay away from them. You know, don't have me coming after you on a personal level.
So that sounds like a message.
Right.
Yeah.
But he was sincere, thinking he was doing me a favor.
Oh, gotcha.
You know, they know. Look, man, don't talk about my parents. You know where they live. That's obvious. I don't want to see you walking in front of their house. If I find out you looking at them cross-eyed, I'm coming after you. We get this understanding. You know, don't make it personal. You know, and all that stuff. So those are only the two occasions I remember anything happening like that. But it was always in the back of my head. You know, and all that. But thank God.
So now you're in Arizona. This life is behind you. You are dealing with the past 25 years of living like this.
Right.
I could imagine you're pretty restless at this point.
You know what? I wasn't.
Or did you feel at peace?
I was at peace, like I said, from that standpoint, and making the phone calls, talking to other people that I arrested and stuff like that. That started relieving some of the weight off of me. But what happened was, and this was right around that same time, I got a call from a reporter back there. And he said, you know, I'm doing this story on the police department and, you know, the corruption. And I said, well, you know, what do you want me to do or say? I said, I don't know of any bodies that anybody did and all this stuff. So I said, I'll talk to you. But I said, one thing I'm asking you not to do is don't misquote me on anything. So we had set up a time to talk and we kept missing it. And then I said, look, man, I'm gonna be back in town on this date and time. We can sit down and talk. Missed it again. So he called me up. He said, can we just talk over the phone? And I said, yeah. So he started telling me all this stuff that was going on with different task force that was based out of our city and all these lawsuits. And I said, man, I forgot about that. Because when you in it, you know, you hear about the stuff, but you're not directly in it. And then he started breaking it down. I'm like, yeah, I remember that. I remember this. I said, wow, you're right. And so he started asking me, I said, yeah, that happened and all this. People got pissed. And now I'm retired. I'm getting phone calls, people I used to work with. How can you talk to a reporter? Talk to anybody I want to talk to, and all this stuff. So it started that over again from when I was on the force, but just from a different dynamic. And so then I felt like I was fighting the police.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. So I started really paying attention to what was going on in the police world. And from the standpoint of this stuff is wrong. And it took me back when I was a police officer and all that stuff. And so when I got involved with the NAACP, I was the chairperson for the Criminal Justice Committee. And that's where it started. And I'm like, man, I know the corruption in the system. I know how it works. And so that became my mission.
So now that you're here in Arizona and you are the president of the West Valley NAACP chapter.
Correct.
As a regular member, did you think that you would be taking a leadership position at any point?
Well, as I said, when we started the branch, I immediately became the criminal justice chair because of my police background. And so I was cool with that because, again, my mission, my purpose at that point still is to look at police corruption and do what I can, be it however small, to try to fight it. And so I took on that role right then, and then it just went from there.
Now, this is a relatively new chapter.
Yes, 2018.
In 2018. In your appointment recently, congratulations.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, congratulations. Do you think that the focus and the mission of the NAACP in 2024 differs from its historical beginnings?
I think the roots are still there because, back then when it started and everything, it was started for a purpose. And I equate it to, a lot of the historical black colleges. And, they were started by white people to give us, the education that we weren't getting in the PWIs, predominantly white institutions. And the NAACP, the same thing, because somebody saw a need that we needed to have some mechanism to fight for our rights. And so, Carter G. Woodson started it. and whoever else he was with and all of that.
Are you talking about the NAACP?
Yeah.
Was it W.B. Du Bois?
I'm sorry, correct. I'm getting mixed up. But yeah, so he started it and all of that. And we know the racism and the suffrages that we faced back then. I think now they are still there, not to the degree that they were back then, but they are still here. And going back to the criminal justice system, I know it's there. You know, it's there in education, politics, criminal justice. So there's definitely a need for the NAACP. Now, far as the effectiveness of the NAACP, that's a different thing. I think, just like with any organization, it's only as powerful as the people that are running that organization. So if you're in there just to get a business card, when I say in there, part of the NAACP, just to get a business card and say, I'm so-and-so, puff your chest up and walk out, you're not being effective in anything. Or if you're using it to catapult yourself to another, a higher level in politics
Social
or a different
climate.
job. Exactly, social climate. Yeah. Then you're not effective. I like to be around people who aren't afraid to fight, and we're on the same mission. And I know if I call you, you're gonna come running. That's one of my goals. And of course, another one is to increase the membership because there's strength in numbers. And I think I told you earlier that our branch, other branches, you know, there's a local branch, the state, then the regional, then the national. And I think national has more bite because they can produce the money and the people and put the pressure on whatever situation that there is. Now locally, I think that goes back to, like me, do people respect me as who I am as the president, that when I walk into their office, they're gonna stand up as opposed to turn around and just laugh? You know, so I think it comes to the individuals within that organization that's running that organization, what their mission is, what their goals are, and their ability or willingness to stand up and fight for whatever situation that we're involved in.
Now, do you think that in conjunction with that, having the full might and support of the national apparatus helps in that when you walk into a room as you just described, and having that backing will assist in that, whether or not somebody's taking you serious or not? Because I kind of feel like, you know, 5 members or the 10 members that are struggling with whatever it is going on, you know, their strength in numbers and that national or that regional backing would, you know, help get things done or get some people to listen versus say, oh, you guys just local here, you know, you're gonna complain for a minute, but you know, I don't really see any muscle behind you, if you will.
And that's the thing. But I think that
I mean, that's a question. I'm not, you know.
I understand. Yeah. I think it's just like with most things, you have to have an understanding of what that thing is. You know, so like I said, we have the local branch, then there's the state that's over the local, then there's a regional, and then the national. So, and we both know there's a lot of stuff going on in this world that affects us directly. And I'm not naive enough to believe that every situation that happens locally is gonna reach the national branch. But if something does get that notoriety, but attention. Okay. If it gets that attention, then national will be there. You know.
See, that's the part that I take, I guess, naively take exception with. Why does something have to rise to the level of a national situation for it to be addressed? For example, you know, a young kid gets into it down here, you know, and you know, Litchfield Park, you know, and an incident happened with that, you know, well, use your imagination. But we're not getting any kind of headway with getting any kind of resolution.
Correct.
National or regional, they send 1 or 2 people down to assist with that. It's not a national issue.
If it gets to that point. If
Yeah.
it gets to, you know,
Right,
and
yeah.
I'm serious to
Yeah.
that level, that next layer,
yeah.
because it usually stops at the local branch, you know. And like we said earlier with George Floyd, that was international.
Yeah.
But George Floyd's are happening every day,
Absolutely.
but it's being handled on a local level. So, and I
Now, are
understand.
you saying that if there's no reason for it, if it's being resolved, then there's no reason to take it any higher? Or are you saying that, well, yes, it's just as severe, there's no resolution, but because the nation isn't in an uproar about it,
That's it.
we're not going to
That's it.
intervene?
That's it.
Okay.
Case in point, there is, and I may have shown you that video. There was a young brother that was killed. What's the day? February 10th, 9th, 10th. There was a young brother that was killed February 21st in Avondale. Last year, February 21st. Young brother from Chicago.
Chicago, yeah.
17
I
years
saw
old.
the video. Yeah.
That hasn't gotten any attention. It got the attention when it first happened because it was a police-involved shooting, a police-involved homicide, to make this straight. And it got the attention then, and because it was awful. I've seen the video. I got the police reports sitting over here on my desk from Avondale and the Peoria Police Department who did the investigation. I read through the report, pissed me off. His young brother was executed. 17 years old, 17 is a juvenile.
Yeah.
And like I said, when it first happened, it got the attention. I'd say local attention around here, Phoenix area and everything. And I posted that video everywhere I could on social media. And people look at it as awful, but it hadn't gotten that attention,
Yeah.
you know? And the question is why? So what makes his life any less than George Floyd or anybody, Laquan McDonald happened in Chicago,
Yeah.
anybody else? And I think, and what I tell myself, I think we get desensitized to it, you know, because we see it all the time, man. Because, you know, they'll show it on the news all the time, us getting smoked, you know, killed on social media. But then when it's, and I'll say when it's somebody of that's lacking melanin, they'll give you that disclaimer, we can't show this, or this is too graphic to show, or it's graphic in nature, so be ready for it, all of that stuff. But when it comes to us, it's just like, we are the worst of everything and we get the worst of everything. So I think to a certain degree, we become desensitized, because I've seen people killed.
Do you think black people are getting so desensitized that there's no
Immediacy, just
right, there's no reason, they feel like there's no reason to protest, or when I
think
say
so.
protest, not going in the street, but making, you know, just being involved in seeking some kind of justice for an incident that rises
until it hits home.
Absolutely.
Then when it hits home,
yes.
you know, it's my cousins, my, you know, this,
Yeah,
that, and the
my
other.
son,
Then
yeah.
everybody wants something to do. But my thing is, we're a family. You know, we came over here the way we did. You know, if you know history, how we ended up in this country. So, but it goes back to that division. So, I'm a dark-skinned brother. I see another dark-skinned brother or sister. What's going on, brother, sister? How y'all doing? Well, I'm not a brother or sister. I'm from Haiti. I'm Puerto Rican. But you still a brother or sister. No, I'm not. It creates all these divisions with us, be it, you know, skin color, nationality, you know, all this stuff. But we are a family.
And we all face the same issues when it comes to things like police brutality.
Yes, we do.
You know, social injustice. We can go on and on and on. But and you beat me to it, because I wasn't thinking about the diaspora, if you will. I was thinking more about just regular African Americans, right?
Yep.
Or blacks in America, where we have this vast chasm of differences and when we talk about these things. And it seems like we debate among each other about the severity of these things.
Right.
Some of us are, plausible deniability.
Yep.
Others of us are ready to, take up arms and everything in between.
Yep.
A lot of us feel like we have arrived, so we don't. A lot of us even blame the victims. We do the same thing that people do in the dominant culture.
Yep.
We just don't have that connection.
True.
Dealing with all those things and being a person like yourself who is an activist, who's part of one of the oldest civil rights organizations in the country, in fact, the oldest.
Correct.
But talking to people that have this desensitized, they're desensitized to the things that we still encounter. How do you have those conversations with people and try to get them to see that, this is something that we all need to be involved in? Because like you said, some of us, we don't even think twice about it until it happens to our son, our daughter, our mother, or what have you.
By then it's too late.
Father.
It's too late by then.
Yeah.
I think that well, I look at it as, if getting a person to listen, so if I come up to you and I start talking, you say, I don't want to hear nothing you have to say, then it's another barrier I have to go through. If I'm talking and I see somebody's listening, at least I'm there. And I go back to, and it's funny because I look at my life to where I am right now and all the things that I've gone through, policing and running from the police and being here in Arizona, the things I'm doing here in Arizona, it's all circular because, like I said earlier, doing an interview, police interview, there's certain things that you're doing. You're trying to, gain that person's trust, break them down. Long as they ain't asking for an attorney or anything like that, you still got them. So it's the same thing. Long as they ain't get the hell away from me, you still got their ear. So, and then it goes back to trust. If you talking to somebody and they realize that you're being sincere and honest, you've already gained a little bit more. So it's the same thing because, like I said, nobody had to talk me into the NAACP because, as I said before, I know what I've seen with the NAACP back home in Illinois, and it was all negative. But when I got here and we had that first meeting and I saw 150 some odd people in that room, I'm like, there's hope. And I remember standing up in that room and I told them, look, back home, I ain't with nothing. I said, what's giving me hope, encouragement is seeing all these black people in this one room. So at least we on some same accord here.